I don't know why I'm trying to use a phone instead. Wrong phone. This phone. This is the one. Not the broken one. Well, I mean, this one's broken too, but hey. Whatever. Yo, we got a few chapters ahead of us, okay? And somehow these come when I just don't like. It's okay, because God. It's okay. We're gonna read through 1 Samuel chapters 4 through 8, and then Psalm 79. And then I'm gonna take my butt to bed after a very long prayer session. And I'm gonna get myself together. And tomorrow's gonna be good. That's what I'm calling into my existence, okay? So, until tomorrow, we have the moments. And in the moment, we're gonna start. There are no devotionals. No nothing. Just Samuel chapter 4. 1 Samuel. And Samuel's words went out to all the people of Israel. The Philistines captured the ark. At the time, Israel was at war with the Philistines. The Israelite army was camped near Ebenezer, and the Philistines were at Ephek. The Philistines attacked and defeated the army of Israel, killing 4,000 men. After the battle was over, the troops retreated to their camp, and the elders of Israel asked, "Why did the Lord allow us to be defeated by the Philistines?" They are so appalled by it. Why did the Lord allow us to be defeated by the Philistines? Then they said, "Let's bring the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord from Shiloh. If we carry it into battle with us, it will save us from our enemies." So, do you see the problem here? They're not saying like, "Oh, let's bow to the Lord. It's the Lord that will save us." No. Here's the Ark of the Covenant. Let's bring it to battle with us. First of all, you're moving this Ark without God's command. That's red flag. No. He told you to leave it there. Place it in the house, in the tabernacle, house of the Lord. That's where he told you to leave. So they're like, okay, if we bring this into battle, then we're gonna win. So yeah, we don't gotta worry about nothing because the Ark of the Covenant is in the battle with us. So surely we're gonna win. Yeah. So they think this is a good idea. It's going to save us from our enemies. So they sent men to Shiloh to bring the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord of Heaven's armies, who is enthroned between the cherubim, and Hophni and Phinehas, the sons of Eli, were also there with the Ark of the Covenant of God. And we already know that they're already shirking their duties and responsibilities. So they're going to allow this to happen without any intervention. And when all the Israelites saw the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord coming into their camp, their shout of joy was so loud it made the ground shake. They were rejoicing. "What's going on?" the Philistines asked. "What's all the shouting about in the Hebrew camp?" When they were told it was because the Ark of the Lord had arrived, they panicked. "The gods have come into their camp," they cried. "This is a disaster." The gods have come. Damn it. Or a god has come. It depends on the translation. But that's what it says here in the New Living One. It says the gods have come into the camp. And so now we know that it's not even they're not even representing the Lord's presence in a way that when the Israelites are happy that the God that are rejoicing, they know exactly which God the rejoicing sound is being called up to. So now they're like, the gods have come into the camp, and that's a problem. This is a disaster. We have never had to face anything like this before. Help! Who can save us from these mighty gods of Israel? They are the same gods who destroyed the Egyptians with plagues when Israel was in the wilderness. Fight as never before, Philistines. If you don't, we will become the Hebrew slaves just as they have been ours. Stand up like men and fight. So the Philistines fought desperately, and Israel was defeated again. The slaughter was great. 30,000 Israelite soldiers died that day. The survivors turned and fled to their tents. The Ark of God was captured, and Hophni and Phinehas, the two sons of Eli, were killed, as was promised. Honestly, as was promised. So the death of Eli. A man from the tribe of Benjamin. Okay. We know Benjamin was cut off. Benjamin was cut off, though. A man from the tribe of Benjamin ran from the battlefield and arrived at Shiloh later that same day. He had torn his clothes and put dust on his head to show his grief. Eli was waiting beside the road to hear news of the battle, for his heart trembled for the safety of the ark of God. When the messenger arrived and told what had happened, an outcry resounded throughout the town. What is all the noise about? Eli asked, after he was beside the road waiting for news. When the messenger arrived and told what had happened, okay, so Eli's like, what's all this news about? The messenger rushed over to Eli, who was 98 years old and blind. He said to Eli, I have just come from the battlefield. I was there this very day. What happened, my son? Eli demanded. Israel has been defeated by the Philistines, the messenger replied. The people have been slaughtered, and your two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, were also killed. And the ark of God has been captured. When the messenger mentioned what had happened to the ark of God, Eli fell backward from his seat beside the gate. He fell backward from his seat beside the gate. He broke his neck and died, for he was old and overweight. He had been Israel's judge for 40 years. I didn't realize Eli was a judge. So he was Israel's judge for 40 years, and I guess when they said that you have grown fat from the best blessing, the best Israel had to offer, they weren't being hyperbolic. They were serious. Like, these Eli and his sons have grown fat because of the good offerings that they were receiving from the people of Israel. So when he falls back out of shock from his chair, he breaks his neck. That's not funny. He breaks his neck. I'm sorry. It's playing in my head, and in my head it's very comical. It might be a little twisted, but moving on. Eli's daughter-in-law, the wife of Phinehas, was pregnant and near her time of delivery. When she heard that the ark of God had been captured and that her father-in-law and husband were dead, she went into labor and gave birth. She died in childbirth, but before she passed away, the midwives tried to encourage her. Don't be afraid, they said. You have a baby boy. But she did not answer or pay attention to them. She named the child Ichabod, which means, where is the glory? Ichabod. For she said, Israel's glory is gone. She named him this because the ark of God had been captured and because her father-in-law and husband were dead. Then she said, the glory has departed from Israel, for the ark of God has been captured. The other thing is, like, yeah, she's Phineas's wife, but Phineas was out here hoeing around with all of these women from the tabernacle entrance. So I don't know what kind of bond they really had in that marriage. Just from that intimacy point of view, you know? Because Phineas was a hoe. Alright, so we're moving on. Samuel 5, 1 Samuel 5, the ark in Philistia. After the Philistines captured the ark of God, they took it from the battleground at Ebenezer to the town of Ashdod. They carried the ark of God into the temple of Dagon and placed it beside an idol of Dagon. But when the citizens of Ashdod went to see it the next morning, Dagon had fell with his face to the ground in front of the ark of the Lord. So they took Dagon and put him in his place again. But the next morning, the same thing happened. Dagon had fallen face down before the ark of the Lord again. This time, his head and hands had been broken off and were lying in the doorway. Only the trunk of his body was left intact. That is why, to this day, neither the priest of Dagon nor anyone who enters the temple of Dagon in Ashdod will step on its threshold. I need to figure out who Dagon is, okay? So we're just gonna do that and... Oop, no, that's not what I wanted to do. That in there and then go in there and then Dagon. Dagon was the Hebrew and Ugaritic is an extinct northwestern Semitic language, classified by some as a dialect of the Amorite language, and so the only known Amorite dialect preserved in writing. Okay. Was the Hebrew and a common noun for grain. Okay, Dagon, was the legendary inventor of the plow. So he looks like a mermaid. He's a fish god. So yeah, he looks like a mermaid. Body of a man, a rainbow fish tail, and then he has like this hat, and his arms are doing like one of these things. I don't know if you can see this. One of these things, or like something like this. Whatever. His cult is attested as early as about 25,000 BC, and according to the texts found at Ras Shamir, ancient Ugarit, he was the father of the god of Baal. He was the father of Baal. We already know we know what Baal, right? So it's so interesting. Like, I just kind of want, not that it's necessary, but I kind of want the folklore behind some of these other gods. Not to be like, the other gods, but just to be like, how did they gain so much ground? Like, were you out here saving people with a mighty hand? Were you out here rescuing tribes by taking action for the cries of your people? Like, how did you gain a foothold? Anyway, so they put the Ark of the Covenant in this place. And God's smacking this doggone idol down on the ground. He's like, nah, this is my ground now. So he's smacking him out the way. The first time he lands face down, like bowed. It's funny because when God meets people and they're always like, he threw his face to the ground, so bowing to God essentially. First time they're like, oh, that's weird. Second time he ends up broken. His arm is broken. His head is broken, but his body's intact, right? So they're not gonna step on the threshold. Then the Lord's heavy hand struck the people of Ashdod and the nearby villages with a plague of tumors. Tumors? The Greek version in Latin Vulgate read tumors, and rats appeared in their land, and death and destruction were throughout the city. Tumors. Okay. When the people realized what was happening, they cried out, "We can't keep the Ark of the God of Israel here any longer. He is against us. We will all be destroyed along with Dagon, our God." So they called together the rulers of the Philistine towns and asked, "What should we do with the Ark of the God of Israel?" The rulers discussed it and replied, "Move it to the town of Gath." So they moved the Ark of the God of Israel to Gath. But when the Ark arrived at Gath, the Lord's heavy hand fell on its men, young and old. He struck them with a plague of tumors, and there was a great panic. Tumors? Tumors. In the King James Version, he struck them. It was against the city with a very great destruction, and he smote the men of the city, both small and great. And they had emerods in their secret parts. Emerald. Definition. Emerods is the archaic term for hemorrhoids. Okay, so they all got hemorrhoids. What were the tumors? Tumors in the groin and died. Is that what we're calling hemorrhoids? So they all got hemorrhoids and died. Okay. Right, so they get this plague, and there was a great panic. So they sent the Ark of God to the town of Ekron. But when the people of Ekron saw it coming, they cried out, "They are bringing the Ark of God of They are bringing the Ark of the God of Israel here to kill us too." The people summoned the Philistine rulers again and begged them, "Please send the Ark of the God of Israel back to its own country, or it will kill us all." For the deadly plague from God had already begun, and great fear was sweeping across the town. Those who didn't die were afflicted with tumors, and the cry from the town rose to heaven. The Philistines returned the ark. The ark of the Lord remained in the Philistine territory 7 months in all. Then the Philistines called in their priests and diviners and asked them, "What should we do about the ark of the Lord? Tell us how to return it to its own country. Send the ark of the God of Israel back with a gift," they were told. "Send a guilt offering so the plague will stop. Then, if you are healed, you will know it was his hand that caused the plague." "What sort of guilt offering should we send?" they asked. And they were told, "Since the plague has struck both you and your 5 rulers, make 5 gold tumors and 5 gold rats, just like those that have ravaged your land." Is this the tumor? That's funny. Sorry, that's really funny. Cat's golden hemorrhoid. That's kind of funny. God has a sense of humor. Like, come on. Okay. 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 That's kind of funny. It's okay. So, their guilt offering is to send 5 gold rats and 5 gold tumors back to Israel along with the Ark of the Covenant so that the plagues can stop. Yeah, okay. First Samuel 6:5. Make these things to show honor to the God of Israel. Perhaps then he will stop afflicting you, your gods, and your land. Don't be stubborn and rebellious as Pharaoh and the Egypt were. Pharaoh and the Egyptians were. By the time God has finished with them, they were eager to let Israel go. Now build a new cart and find 2 cows that have just given birth to calves. Make sure the cows have never been yoked to a cart. Hitch the cows to the cart, but shut their calves away from them in a pen. Put the ark of the Lord on the cart, and beside it place a chest containing the gold rats and gold tumors that you are sending as a guilt offering. Then let the cows go wherever they want. If they cross the border of our land and go to Beth Shemesh, we will know it was the Lord who brought this great disaster upon us. If they don't, we will know it was not his hand that caused the plague. It came simply by chance. So these instructions were carried out. 2 cows were hitched to the cart, and the newborn calves were shut away in the pen. Then the ark of the Lord and the chest containing the gold rats and gold tumors were placed on the cart. And sure enough, without veering off in other directions, the cows went straight along the road toward Beth Shemesh, lowing as they went. Lowing as they went. Okay. Lowing as they went. Mooing all the way. Okay, that's what that means. That they went straight down this road and they mooed the entire time. Or, they did what cows do. The Philistine rulers followed them as far as the border of Beth Shemesh. The people of Beth Shemesh were harvesting wheat in the valley, and when they saw the ark, They were overjoyed. The cart came into the field of a man named Joshua and stopped beside a large rock. So the people broke up the wood of the cart for a fire and killed the cows and sacrificed them to the Lord as a burnt offering. Several men of the tribe of Levi lifted the ark of the Lord and the chest containing the gold rats and gold tumors from the cart and placed them on the large rock. Many sacrifices and burnt offerings were offered to the Lord that day by the people of Bethshemesh. The 5 Philistine rulers watched all this and then returned to Ekron that same day. The 5 gold tumors sent by the Philistines as a guilt offering to the Lord were gifts from the rulers of Ashdod, Gaza, Ashkelon, Gath, and Ekron. The 5 gold rats represented the 5 Philistine towns and their surrounding villages, which were controlled by the 5 rulers. The large rock at Bethshemesh, where they sent the ark of the Lord, still stands in the field of Joshua as a witness to what happened there. The ark moved to Kiriath Jearim. But the Lord killed 70 men from Bethshemesh because they looked into the ark of the Lord. Okay. Y'all know y'all not supposed to do that, but okay. 70 men? 70 men looked at the same time? Oh no, one person looked, and I feel like maybe not one person, but like 2 or 3 looked, and they incited the wrath of God, and that killed 70 before it was subsided. I don't feel like 70 people looked at this and they all got that punishment. Because sometimes it's like one person did a thing and now y'all all gotta go, you know? So, I feel like that's what really happened. So, there's that. 70 people died there because they tried to see what was inside someone's. And the people mourned greatly because of what the Lord had done. Who is able to stand in the presence of the Lord, this holy God? They cried out. Where can we send the ark from here? So they sent messengers to the people of Kiriath Jearim and told them, the Philistines have returned the ark of the Lord. Come here and get it. So the men of Kiriath Jearim came to get the ark of the Lord. They took it to the hillside home. Home of Abinadab, and ordained Eleazar his son to be in charge of it. The ark remained in Kiriath Jearim for a long time, 20 years in all. During that time, all Israel mourned because it seemed the Lord had abandoned them. Samuel leads Israel to victory. Then Samuel said to all the people of Israel, if you want to return to the Lord with all your hearts, get rid of your foreign gods and your images of Ashtoreth. Turn your hearts to the Lord and obey him alone. Then he will rescue you from the Philistines. So Israel got rid of their images of Baal and Ashtaroth and worshipped only the Lord. Then Samuel told them, gather all of Israel to Mizpah, and I will pray to the Lord for you. So they gathered at Mizpah and in a great ceremony drew water from a well and poured it out before the Lord. They also went without food all day, so they fasted, and confessed that they had sinned against the Lord. So they fasted and repented all day. It was at Mizpah that Samuel became Israel's judge. When the Philistine rulers heard that Israel had gathered at Mizpah, they mobilized their army and advanced. The Israelites were badly frightened when they learned that the Philistines were approaching. Both don't stop pleading with the Lord our God to save us from the Philistines. They begged Samuel. So Samuel took a young lamb and offered it to the Lord as a whole burnt offering. He pleaded with the Lord to help Israel, and the Lord answered him. Just as Samuel was sacrificing the burnt offering, the Philistines arrived to attack Israel. But the Lord spoke with a mighty voice of thunder from heaven that day, and the Philistines were thrown into such confusion that the Israelites defeated them. The men of Israel chased them from Mizpah to a place below Beth-kar, slaughtering them all along the way. Samuel took a large stone and placed it between the towns of Mizpah and Jeshanah. Yeah. He named it Ebenezer, which means the stone of help. For he said, up to this point, the Lord has helped us. So the Philistines were subdued and didn't invade Israel again for some time. And throughout Samuel's lifetime, the Lord's powerful hand was raised against the Philistines. The Israelite villages near Ekron and Gath that the Philistines had captured were restored to Israel, along with the rest of the territory that the Philistines had taken, and there was peace between Israel and the Amorites in those days. Samuel continued as Israel's judge for the rest of his life. Each year he traveled around setting up his court, first at Bethel, and then at Gilgal, and then at Mizpah. He judged the people of Israel at each of these places. Then he would return to his home in Ramah, and he would hear cases there too. And Samuel built an altar to the Lord at Ramah. Israel requests a king. As Samuel grew old, he appointed his sons to judge over Israel, Joel and Abijah. His sons held court in Beersheba, but they were not like their father, for they were greedy for money. They accepted bribes and perverted justice. It's like the goodness doesn't follow along to the next generation, you know? Like I can only imagine how driven Samuel is for doing the Lord's work. And I can only imagine in that drive, that lust, that zeal for the Lord, he's trying to instill that in his children. But instead, he gets greedy, scrupulous sons who don't really care for the justice of the Lord. And they go about accepting bribes. I don't really understand what's the flaw in the generational gap. Like, I wonder what that disconnect is. Like, I need to move the pictures of this golden hammer. I don't understand what the flaw is, the gap there. But, they perverted justice. Finally, all the elders of Israel met at Ramah to discuss the matter with Samuel. Look, they told him, you are now old and your sons are not like you. Give us a king to judge us like all other nations have. Samuel was displeased with their request and went to the Lord for guidance. Do everything they say to you, the Lord replied, for they are rejecting me, not you. Ow! They don't want me to be their king any longer. Ever since I brought them from Egypt, they have continually abandoned me and followed other gods, and now they are giving you the same treatment. Do as they ask, but solemnly warn them about the way a king will reign over them. Ow! How much pain for the Lord to feel rejection? Like, the rejection of a nation. You know, you ever been rejected? Even when you didn't really want the thing in the first place, and then it like incites, like, hold up now. I wasn't trying to get with you in the first place. How you gonna reject me? I didn't even show you any interest. Like, hold up now. Okay, so now when you're rejected by the object of your desire, the spirit, right? And I multiply that by an entire nation. When all you've done is show them the best you have to offer them. I mean, yes, you've done some correction because they've been acting up, but for the most part, you've shown them what their life could be like with you. What their life is like with you. Ever since I brought them from Egypt, they have continually abandoned me and followed other gods. And now they are giving you the same treatment. Do as they ask, but solemnly warn them about the way a king will reign over them. Samuel warns against a kingdom. So Samuel passed on the Lord's warning to the people who were asking for a king. This is how a king will reign over you, Samuel said. The king will draft your sons and assign them as his chariots and his charioteers, making them run before his chariots. Some will be generals and captains in his army. Some will be forced to plow in his fields and harvest his crops, and some will make his weapons and chariot equipment. The king will take your daughters from you and force them to cook and bake and make perfumes for him. He will take away the best of your fields and vineyards and olive groves and give them to his own officials. He will take 1/10 of your grain and your grape harvest and distribute it among his officers and attendants. He will take your male and female slaves and demand the finest of your cattle and donkey for his own use. He will demand 1/10 of your flocks, and you will be his slaves. When that day comes, you will beg for relief from this king you are demanding, but then the Lord will not help you. But the people refused to listen to Samuel's warning. Even so, we still want a king, they said. We want to be like the other nations around us. Our king will judge us and lead us into battle. They're asking for something they already have. You're asking for something you already have. That's not how you spell it. Here we go. That's how you spell it. So, they're asking for a king who will judge them and lead them into battle. But that's what God's been doing this whole time. He's been judging them. He's been leading into battle. He's been leading them into battle. He's been giving them knowledge on safety, hygiene. He's been granting them the wisdom of the survival that they need. But they want the king that's physical to them. The king that they can be like, that's our king, see, he's right there, he has a crown on his head, that's him. And in wanting that, they get warned, like, this is what you're gonna get. Yeah, God takes receives attempts of their best, and that is distributed amongst Israel, like the tribe of Levi. He's like, this is how you'll be treated if you have a king, like a physical king. So Samuel repeated to the Lord what the people had said, and the Lord replied, do as they say and give them a king. Then Samuel agreed and sent the people home. God is so done. He's like, they've rejected me, and I like, they keep rejecting me. This has been years, centuries of them doing this, of Israel and God doing this little song and dance, trying to get on the same score. They've been changed. I think at that point, God's just like, do what they want, give them what they want, then do what that's what they want. They keep rejecting me. They keep going to these other gods. I'm tired, okay? Like, y'all making me do my work that I need to do, right? Like, I had to go and be disrespected in this tent, this hobbled up a tent with this daggone guy. I had to show him who was boss for 7 months, For 7 months, they was just carting me around like they weren't putting no respect on my name, only to come back home to Israel and receive this level of disrespect. Oh no, just give them what they want. Go ahead, just give them what they want. Let's see how good that is for them. Give them what they want. I really feel like that's the state he was in, like just the state of fed up, So now we're gonna get a king. We're gonna figure out who the king is. We are in Psalm 79, a psalm of Asaph. O God, pagan nations have conquered your land, your special possession. O God, pagan nations have conquered your land, your special possession. They have defiled your holy temple and made Jerusalem a heap of ruins. They have left the bodies of your servants as food for the birds of heaven. The flesh of your godly ones have become food for the wild animals. Blood has flowed like water all around Jerusalem. No one is left to bury the dead. We are mocked by our neighbors, an object of scorn and derision to those around us. O Lord, how long will you be angry with us? Forever? How long will your jealousy burn like fire? Pour out your wrath on the nations that refuse to acknowledge us. that refuse to acknowledge you, on kingdoms that do not call upon your name. For they have devoured your people Israel, making the land a desolate wilderness. Do not hold us guilty for the sins of our ancestors. Let your compassion quickly meet our needs, for we are on the brink of despair. Help us, O God of our salvation. Help us for the glory of your name. Save us and forgive us our sins for the honor of your name. Why should pagan nations be allowed to scoff, asking, where is their God? Show us your vengeance against the nations, for they have spilled the blood of your servants. Listen to the moaning of the prisoners. Demonstrate the great power by saving those condemned to die. O Lord, pay back our neighbors 7 times for the scorn they have hurled at you. Then we, your people, the sheep of your pasture, will thank you forever and ever, praising the greatness from generation to generation. That's a lie. It's a lie without being a lie. He's like, do this and we're going to keep praising you from generation to generation. And in a sense, that's true, because there's been like this cycle of, devoutness to disrespect, to devoutness to disrespect, to devoutness to disrespect. And you gotta wonder why there's this ebb and flow throughout the generations. Like, you go high devoutness and then it starts to teeter off. So what's pulling it down? And I just think that children are really prone to do the opposite of what is forced upon them, what is thrusted upon them, They're really prone to not want to conform to that or what they see. So you see this and you're like, there's got to be another way. But also, I believe that, like, the flaw of religion is also in the person who instructs it, or faith. The flaw of faith is also in the person who tries to instill it. And what I mean by that is, you can end up distant from God because the person who was teaching you about God didn't have godly character. They were so flawed that their flaws ended up seeping into your own personal relationship with God that you were constructing. They were so flawed that the examples they set deterred you from thinking God was enough to have the life he promised, really. They were so flawed that they couldn't see the greatness of God through the lens of that flawed character trying to teach them. Which is why Israel was called to set themselves apart, right? They were called to act differently, to operate differently, to operate on a higher level. Which is like some of the things, like, I haven't really done this myself in terms of the drinking. When you're out and about, when you're not supposed to, a lot of Christians don't drink. A lot of, like, really, like, deep in it, don't drink. I also think that's part of just learning, especially in this day and age, how to set yourself apart from a world that's so far up its own. What can the world be up in it? It's drinking. It's in its own Kool-Aid, Yeah, like, everyone's just doing what they, not everyone, but the majority of society is doing what they think is best, which is, go your way, do what you think is best, fine, but That's why there's like a extra level of how that separation. I don't necessarily think, I haven't read it yet. I don't really know. Maybe it's in there somewhere. Thou shalt not drink is not, really a command. The problem, and again, my disclaimer is I haven't gotten to the point where if it's in there and I haven't seen it yet, that's on me. But like, for now, my constructed thought was thou shalt not drink is not in there yet. Okay? It's not in there. I haven't come across it yet so far. The problem is drinking leads to certain behaviors and we don't know how to control ourselves. So the problem is don't enter that level of temptation to begin with. So you gotta start pulling back, and you keep pulling back, and you wonder, like, what goes? When you gotta do the snipping to keep yourself clean, what goes? When you're trying to cut off the moldy pieces just to save the rest of it, you end up snipping a little. You end up snipping a lot. Because you gotta cut off the mold, and then the piece that had the last bit of contact with the mold. So you're trying to keep yourself from rotting away. That's why the restrictions get so heavy sometimes. Something's gotta go. Something's got to go in order to keep you safe. The other thing is, I find it so funny that the world is like quick to accept, very quickly, will accept like, oh no, recovering, I can't have that. And they'll be like, oh, okay, da-da-da-da-da. But then the second you're like, no, I don't really drink. My religion, whatever, I don't really drink. They're like never? Like what? When's the last time you, I guess that's cool, whatever. It's weird. It's weird. And I also don't like, this is a side note, but I also don't like that adulthood came with this, having fun is being up in a bar and drinking and at a club and nightlife, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that should be the same for every adult. I think there should be some other adult-like activity. I think we limited ourselves in the realm of what can be fun to do at late night activity hours, okay? Because work hours is where all the clean fun kind of happens. I'm gonna call it clean fun kind of happens. And then late night, all you got is restaurant and bars and clubs. Where's the clean adult fun? I want to have a place that stays open late night and is just playing food fights. I didn't get to have a food fight when I was a kid. I always wanted to have a food fight. Why can't grown, consenting adults go yeah, I'm down to be at this place and do a random food fight? That sounds fun to me. That sounds fun to me. But why are there no places? Really, when you think late night activity for grown adults, not grown adults, for adults, there's usually some kind of alcohol involved somewhere. It's just a given at this point. When's the last restaurant menu you saw that didn't have drinks on it? It's everywhere. I feel like I wasn't trying to go here. I lost my point somewhere. No, I didn't. This was my point. My point is that that's the world standard, and to be a person of Christ and in faith, you've got to show a separation of that, be it in your character, in your behaviors, in your speech patterns, whatever it is. I'm not saying be all holier than I'm saying, what's your level of separation? Are you going to be of the world, as the world, going, yeah, Christ, I'm with him? Or are you going to be, no, this is the standard I've been called to. This is the bar that I'm trying to set within myself for myself, my safety, but then also because that's the call God has placed on us, to set ourselves apart, to set us as examples that don't mar his name. And we all know there are Christians out there who marred the name of God. We all know. We know. Roman Catholics and your priest. In that whole situation, and more, there's other situations, but like, where's the standard? Where's the standard? You can't set to a standard. You can't call people up to come to that standard. And we're also, it's just a rush of like, yeah, get clean. Yeah, don't do this. Yeah, don't. These are the rules to live by if you want to be Christian. And if you fail to meet that standard, well, then, get up here. And then you turn around and know what you think no one's looking, and you're doing all the down, dirty, low down shit. Like, what's the point? Really? Who are you putting the show on for? Because God definitely seen it. He's seen it. He knows what you're doing. Okay? And more people are watching than you think. Secrets don't stay dark for long. They really don't. And I don't even want to get like people. I'm not gonna rant, but I feel like people don't give enough freedom to the new in faith. Give them freedom because they are discovering who they are in Christ. Like it's a whirlwind trying to figure out who you are in Christ. Because then you're like, all of this, I was like, oh my God, and you're like trying to figure out what. There's a level of condemnation that comes first. Like, I was doing all this and it was all wrong and God's hard, and you're going through that whole repentance stage. You feel like crap in that stage. There is no way you're like, yeah, I'm feeling good in your repentance stage. What, you think this new budding believer of Christ, brother, sister of Christ, is gonna be perfect? Right out the gate? They're gonna have it all down, understand it all right out the gates? No. But give them the space in terms that they can build like a true relationship. I feel like that's the only thing that as Christians we should be, as Christians we should be like committed to instilling. I'd be like, oh, make sure you don't do that or wear this and act like this, No, make sure you're having a relationship, a personal relationship with God. That is your Father now. Talk to him the way you need to talk to him. Don't think he's like watching you and judging you this whole time and like keeping you. Because tell you what, the fact that you're here means that he fought for you throughout the whole time you was doing whatever you was doing, because he knew you would get here eventually. That is good. He is Savior. He knows what you're going through. And I think so many Christians are out here trying to be like, yeah, God is great, and then in the shadows doing their dirty work. And it's keeping people away. It's deterring people. It really is. Because like, what ground do we have to stand on? Set yourself apart. That's all. I don't know why. Well, whatever. That's what came out of my mouth. So, bye. Oh, it's so good. Okay, bye.